my position, I have attempted to operate methodically and calmly to ensure that the decisions of the European Union, as expressed by the European Council in its decisions and guidelines on the one hand, and also by the European Parliament in a number of its resolutions, I've attempted to pursue these in an orderly fashion. Now, if we look at these guidelines and decisions, they reflect, first of all, the desire to be united, and that has been expressed since June 2016 by the European institutions. And in my capacity, I am a worker, hopefully a qualified worker, on behalf of the 27, in nurturing this unity on a daily basis and ensuring transparency and trust as part of the process of dialogue. So we're talking about unity, we're talking about defending the interests of the European Union, and indeed the foundations of the European Union, which the UK is very familiar with because we've been constructing these for the past 44 years. We're talking about the single market in all of its dimensions, which is our main achievement in the current global context and for the future. An orderly withdrawal of the United Kingdom. This is something which has, on a daily basis, been our objective, and it remains our objective. Obviously, an orderly withdrawal implies the best possible conditions for the second set of negotiations. Equally important in my mind, the negotiations for the future partnership with the United Kingdom, which would and will remain a friend, partner, and ally. So, this explains how and why we have been working on this for the past 2 years. Now, on the eve of a European Council, we have examined the situation in London, and President Tusk has given Theresa May the opportunity to show the way forward, timeline, a roadmap. This is something the European Union needs in order to enable it to take the right decisions. Now, a new element in this very, very serious and complex context we're operating within is, of course, the fact that we have had cross-party discussions initiated finally with Labour by Theresa May. We all expressed our hopes and expectations in this regard. In other words, with regard to these cross-party negotiations. Our expectations and our hope that this dialogue will conclude with a positive result, which will allow us at last to have a positive majority emerge with regard to this withdrawal agreement. And this is something I was able to reiterate this morning to ministers. If the UK wishes to leave the EU in an orderly fashion, the only way to do so is based on the withdrawal agreement which we agreed upon together. So, as I said, this cross-party dialogue is the new element which could lead to a request which we would be then willing not only to agree to, but also to implement for our future relations. You will have heard me say on a number of occasions, first of all, that the withdrawal agreement is not going to be reopened, is not up for negotiation again. That continues to be the case. Secondly, the political declaration, which will set the framework for future relations, can be improved. We can provided with an increased level of ambition, if that is the wish of the UK. Clearly, there is one point which I think needs to be stated quite clearly, and that is that these ambitions with regard to future relations, which could, for example, consist of adding, and I say here, adding to a free trade agreement on which we've agreed with the UK already. That's a minimum level. In other words, it would involve adding to this free trade agreement, for example, a customs union, a genuine customs union. And we are willing to improve and amend the political declaration rapidly within a few hours or days. But the request we await and expect from the UK as a result of this cross-party dialogue is one which needs to respect the principles underlying the approach of the European Council and the European Parliament, and respect what we are and what we will continue to be. And I think this is something worth recalling. We're talking here about the integrity of the internal market, the decision-making autonomy of the 27, and the indivisibility of the four freedoms. We are not willing to compromise in any way the very foundations of the European Union, which are based on this single market and the genuine ecosystem which it entails, which protects businesses and in particular protects consumers. That's a point which needs to be understood very, very clearly. And if that's the case, then we are willing.
Well, Michel Barnier there, the EU's chief negotiator.